So what I've been trying to do is kind of work with a theme in any day. And so today, my theme this morning for my Instagram was um, center of levity, center of gravity, oops, and dynamic alignment. So, and this is interesting because in the Laban work, we have this idea that up here in our lungs is our center of levity. Down here is our center in our guts, is our center of gravity. And I just saw this amazing video by Gil Hedley, the anatomist, Rolfer Somatic, amazing human, talking about center of gravity and center of levity, because Ida Rolf said gravity is the therapist. But he's like, but also levity. And there's like a guy, Jean something Barrel, I think. He's a French osteopath who's done a lot of visceral manipulation. And he talks about our guts, and I've heard Gil say this, being kind of vacuum packed in. Like it's like they're not going to fall out, right? If we got cut open, they're still staying in there because they're connected, but also that like they're really nicely packed in there. But what I learned from Gil is that today or yesterday or the other day is that there's systems of pressure where each area is pressurized at a different rate. So deep down in our pelvis is the highest pressure system. And if you think about the weather, the high pressure moves to the low pressure, right? The high pressure is pushing into the low pressure. So our highest pressure is down here in our pelvis. Then it comes up into our organs up here, our abdomen. And he said that there's like, let's just say there's 20, I don't know, pounds of, I don't know if it's pounds or how they measure it, but if there's 20 pounds of oxygen pushing in here, there's 15 here, and up here there's nothing. So this pressurized system is wanting to move up. But our diaphragm, which is this domed shape, is holding it down, right? And when we breathe, we push down more and more. So that gut belly breathing is really healthy. But this is like part of the idea that if we're stacked vertically on our body, if we're in an alignment, where our each area is atop the other one, so we're not leaning forward or slumped, there's a sense of this levity naturally coming up our bodies. So it's not just everything's going down, but if we're in the erect vertical human biped alignment, there's this natural sense of levity. And I just want to add to that, as we breathe in the air, we fill up. There's also a rise. There's that levity, and that can go up and down, right? We can breathe deep down, bring the air into our guts, or we can kind of breathe high up and then release. So just to play with that, and then I want to throw this last idea on top of that, and that is dynamic alignment. And dynamic alignment is this idea that our alignment is never stable or like rigid. It's stable-ish, but it's going through this movement at all times. So the fluid systems of our body are dynamic. They're always moving, right? Our blood, our lymph, our cerebral spinal fluid, all that stuff is always in motion, even our hormones. And so just to give us this really living sense of dynamic movement, and that our alignment is always in relationship to other parts. It's not just this is doing something, that's doing something, but there are these interrelationships that are moving back and forth. And one more thing to say is just that stacked up alignment is really in relationship to heaven and earth, right? Us being here in the center. Inspiration on top, grounded on the bottom. So just adding that elemental part. My cat comes in on cue as we talk about heaven and earth. So I want to play with these three ideas: center of levity, center of gravity, and dynamic alignment. Let's actually start it laying down and feeling the sense of the gravity on the ground, if that feels good to you. As we go through this, I'm probably going to move through different relationships to the earth just to feel those centers and different places with different modes. I'm also going to offer that we might want to add some sound with this. So, but first, just coming into the ground. Letting yourself feel the ground underneath you, right? The support of the earth. The planet is holding us. Maybe allowing some micro movement. And what is micro movement but the underpinnings of dynamic alignment? feeling into those relationships between our center of gravity, our center of levity, and our whole head tail spinal connection. So I'm inviting in the micro movement, inviting in breath support. And the breathing can be as loud or as quiet as feels good to you. Sometimes when we breathe very light, we can still breathe deeply, but we start to lighten up the breath so we're not taking these massive breaths, and it can kind of make us a little more light in the world, a little more diffused. So these are just little tools to work towards levity or to work towards gravity. I feel like when we do the big diaphragmatic breathing, there's a little more groundedness in that breathing. But if we breathe kind of light, taking in less volume of oxygen, maybe still breathing deep, we can come into some levity, some diffusion. So maybe playing between those two, that spectrum, lightness. So for me also, I kind of imagine lightness as being more sort of airy, spacious, gaseous, and then the gravity to be more dense and more filled in, right? It's that pressure filling in. So feeling the dance between gravity and levity with this sense of dynamic alignment, this sense of aliveness and movement. I'm going to start with a theta breath. Soft, gentle hiss. Allowing it to last as long as it lasts. Can we find levity and lightness in different parts of our body? Maybe we can even find gravity in our upper body, gravity as we connect down to the earth, as we're in this different relationship laying down. As I lay here, it's easy for me to find the density in the parts of my body that are closest to the ground and to find the lightness in the parts that are further away. There may be some core distal patterning coming on, center to edge. Head tail connection. And it's not even important to name all these things. You could be in the play of movement without any words for it, right? The verbal part of our brain is different than the sensation part. So I'm going to add another breath. This breath is called the pedal breath, and it's a continuum breath. I'm just going to come in and look really weird at you as I show you what it is. So it's this idea that our mouth is like a flower that's opening and closing, and it's not like even like this. It could be very amorphous. So it's like this. So that's using a vocal cord and doing it. You could do the same thing with no vocal cords, just letting your face pattern just free up, letting it move. I feel like this pedal breath and the theta breath together are like a nice relationship between really freeing up the pattern of your face and then also coming back to, oh, this is just my face. So letting our nervous system unwind through micro movements in the face and with the breath. And I also kind of feel like that pedal breath, when we use the vocal cord, has more of a sense of gravity. And with no vocal cord, maybe more of a sense of levity. So allowing yourself to play with that in any way that feels good. I think I'm actually going to stay seated and play here with that same thing, seated on my ball, which is already very much levity. And I'm going to go back and forth between those breaths, allowing this dynamic alignment, allowing these relationships of my guts, my reproductive organs, my lungs, my heart, and my nervous system, all the fluids to just dance in relationship. Taking resting breaths whenever necessary, moving as much or as little as feels good to you. You may notice that even with the inhale and the exhale, there are shifts in that levity-gravity relationship. In any of these breaths, there can be real fluctuation of free and bound flow through your body. Free flow, there's very little control, very little sort of maturity. It could be very easy and childish. And the bound flow has more tension, more maturity, more control. If you've ever seen a very young baby that's just learning how to sit, the way that their bodies move as they're in that sitting pattern, that's dynamic alignment. That's all of this stuff just happening before your very eyes. It may be interesting to play with sort of gradated levels of ujjayi breathing. So like there's the really stuff where there's really sort of a tension in the throat, and then where it starts to get lighter and easier as we move towards like a luna breath. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just continue on. Don't worry about it. It's fine. But if it's interesting to play with that with a closed mouth, those sort of different tension levels in your system, feel free to bring that online. Different levels of density and sort of diffusion, spaciousness. And all of this is just sort of a play and exploration. It might be very different in your body than it will be very different in your body than it is in mine. So whatever's happening for you, there's not like a right and wrong that I could say, oh, this is how it is, or that is how it is. It's really just an experience. That might be very different from day to day. If you have a chance to sometimes repeat these sessions, you'll find that they're very different. You'll hear different things will land. Your body will be very different from day to day. So I'm going to give us some music to play around with. Oh, got a little squeaky deaky coming in. Oh, there's already one playing, so we'll use that. This is the music of Jeff Gersh. This is Ambient Fields. That song I think was called No Room. And we'll just do one more. If you need to pop out, you can always pop out. But the next song I think is called Unformed. Good. Patty, you want to stay for a little while or are you going to leave? You good to finish this song? Another like
Yeah, I'm
5
good.
minutes?
Didn't realize everyone was away.
I know, I just noticed. I'm like, oh, it's just me and Patty. All right, let's just keep going till the song ends. Just like 5 more minutes.
All right.
The cats are really full on today. Little Peapod's right there. Gaylord, Squeaky Deaky's been in and out. They've been really enjoying this session very much. All right, I'm going to stop the live stream. Just for the live stream people, do try and repeat